All right, we're going to try this again. We're going to try this video again. I was in the middle of recording it, and I had this thing that Linux has been doing forever where like the music will continue playing, everything will work, but there'll be no video. The video on the screen will be there, but it'll be frozen. Sometimes it's fixable if you wait a few minutes. Sometimes it doesn't go away at all. Sometimes if I go Control Alt F3 or F4 to get rid of the desktop and go to the terminal, and then switch back, it'll work. But a lot of the times it just does that. And everything I've Googled regarding that issue, every single person who has solved it appears to have had a totally different solution and a totally different reason it was occurring. So since it's one of those things that could literally be anything, it's just an issue that's been driving me nuts for a while. But that's the story of Linux. It's there to drive you nuts. Anyway, so let's take a look at this board. This is a board that we actually fixed just a couple of months ago, and it's back. The customer said it's doing the same thing it was before. So our response is, it looks like you did the same thing that you did before, which is spill shit on it, which makes me sad because they said, you know, I need this back immediately. I need it back in a day. I can't believe this happened. It's like, I can't control people do it when it gets back into their hands. So see this? That is another spill. And you can see that there is some clear-cut new corrosion over here. And there is also some corrosion over here, which makes me really, really sad, because this is right by the circuit that's going to power the CPU. So I'm going to see if I can get Flex board view on the screen. Why does this corrosion make me cry and think this customer is screwed? Well, the reason that this corrosion makes me sad is because, as you see over here, that is U7200. Now, what is U7200? Well, that's a great question. U7200 is going to control the buck converter that, over here, is going to take our PP bus G3 hot, PP Vin S5 high side computing iSense. It's actually PP bus G3 hot after it goes through a current sensing resistor of R5400. It's going to take our PP bus G3 hot over here, and which is 12.6 volts. It's going to have it go through in pulses, so it's going to pulse on, off, on, off, on, off, and turn it into about 1 to 1.7 volts for the CPU. Now, what do you think is going to happen if the chip that's controlling this process of taking 12 volts and turning it to 1 volt for the CPU gets liquid on it? It's going to send 12 volts to the CPU, which means this is not going to work. So I'm not going to plug this in. I'm not going to try to turn this on. I'm not even going to try to prompt to turn it on, because if I do so, I will send another pulse of 12 volts to the CPU, more than the 12 volts it already got, which will kill it. So usually what I do is I try to turn it on, see how many amps it's taking and all that, so that I can get an idea how to troubleshoot. We're not going to do that here, because if I do that on this board, I will kill it. Although, granted, most likely, it's already dead. This board is as dead as my relationship with Paul Daniels after that trolling software today. How dare he expect me to open the window to a suitable size? What's the point of having a 4K screen when I need Flex board view to take up the entire freaking... I'm salty. I'm salty. I'm salty. If I see an Australian in the chat, I'm going to kick him. If I see a koala on my way home, I'm going to go, toss him right off my fire escape. Okay, now I'm just being ridiculous. I'm just taking it out on Paul Daniels that I have yet another board that's going to have a dead CPU in my queue. It's not fair. It's not fair that we always take things out on Paul Daniels. We have to find another Australian to take things out on. Jim Hook, maybe. Gotta start spreading it around a little bit. Can't have it all in this one place. Okay, now I get you, Pierre, enough. Alright, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's see if these traces are broken at any point. By the way, everybody, we are greeted by Board Repair Royalty in the chat today. Everybody say hello to Piernov. Piernov is one smart dude. He is a good guy. He helps a lot of people learn how to do this. And he's gotten a lot of people the help they need to get boards working again. People like Piernov help make this industry a better place. And I think he deserves a thank you. I haven't, NPR. That aviation guy, that would require that I teach you how to solder, which I don't know how to do over the internet. I can make a video where I solder something and then, you know, but I don't know how to teach you how to solder on a YouTube live chat, I'm afraid. If you're talking about the headphone wires where the wire is not really wire, but it's kind of hair, that even I don't really know. Because there's a lot of headphones where I've wanted to solder a new plug on after the, you know, the right where the wire meets the plug, it gets shitty. And I've wanted to solder on a new plug. And then when I cut it open, it's not really wires so much as it's hair. And I don't really even know how the hell they got that in there to begin with. But if you're talking about that I don't have an answer to. Like, even I just wind up using a gigantic amount and praying that it stays, and that's that. Do you think I should take a micro soldering job? Damon, unfortunately, there's not enough detail there to be able to answer your question. I don't know if you're qualified. I don't know what you currently do for work. I don't know what they're offering to pay you. I don't know what you make right now. I don't know if it's a good company you're looking to work at or a shitty company you're looking to work at. I don't know if it's a job where they're going to treat you like a human being or if it's a job like, well, working at Rossman Repair. Speaking of someone who would know what the inhumanity of working at Rossman Repair is like, everybody say hello to Cam in the chat. I'm in a caster. I would suggest checking out youtube.com/Rossman Group. I may just be mildly biased. How are you doing, that dude? I am doing alright. I'm doing alright. I picked up my driver's learning permit and my 5-hour course completion. Now I just gotta find someone who's willing to let me test drive their car so that I could learn how to drive a normal car. I asked Paul and he looked at me and then ran out of the room. I asked Steve and then he did pretty much the exact same thing. Need to find someone that trusts me with their car. Alright, so we've got a bunch of shit here. Now again, all of this crap needs replacing. Like, that needs replacing, but that's not going to send 12 volts to the CPU. This area over here needs cleanup, but that's not going to send 12 volts to the CPU. This area over here can use cleanup. What I'm really looking at right now, what I want to get an idea of is how... this doesn't look nice either. But none of this here is going to send 12 volts to my CPU. I just want to see, like, how screwed is this? Does this have even the slightest chance of turning on again? So that's what I'd like to determine here. And we're going to try to determine that now. You're preparing to move to a city where you'll need a car. Now, I don't want to live someplace where you need a car. Any place that I wind up moving to is going to be a place where I'm going to be getting around by Bafang. I may be getting around by a bigger Bafang or a stronger Bafang, but I'd like to be able to, let's say, fly into an area, rent a car or a motorcycle, and then be able to travel that area. So I'd like to be able to travel a bunch of different states in the U.S., and if I want to travel around it, just be able to rent a car. You know, you can't really rent a Bafang or a Cyclone or anything like that, because it's fucking illegal. Let's see what this thing does now. So let's see if we at least got this thing to turn on. All right, we're taking 1.6 amps and we're getting a fan spin. So It is turning on. Now, the next thing we have to do at this point, obviously, is clean up all the shit. Now, do be clear. I don't know if it's brain dead. It could be brain dead. I don't know that yet. Keith, I am using it because I didn't know I would dislike it this much until I switched. So now I'm kind of stuck. We have to see if this board is still brain dead. Now, I think that we can kind of clean up this area with a little bit of flux and reflow. Well, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of just junky-ass looking corrosion over here. And a lot of this is going to come off in the ultrasonic, and it'll be fine. A lot of this is just, you know, it's cosmetically nasty, but it's not actually going to cause us any harm. Especially on the PP bus caps. I also don't have an identical board, so kind of... I don't think I have a 00163 donor here. I have a bunch of 00426s. Yeah, so we're going to clean this up a little bit. Just a little bit of cleaning. Realistically speaking, that stuff could stay on the board. I'm just kind of being OCD with it. Like this person already is pissed off that they had to come back once, even though it has nothing to do with me. So I want to make sure every time this customer comes back, it's because they spilled something, not because I half-assed fixing their board. This is such a regular occurrence at this point, and I don't like talking like this about people. I don't like getting to a point where my default is I don't believe you, but it's just, it happens so often that my default at this point, to some extent, is I just don't believe you. Like when someone says, it's doing the same thing, did you spill anything again? No, of course I didn't spill anything again. I think at this point in the business, I've gotten to the point where I don't believe most people. Also, I have no idea why you just keep repeating yourself, Clinton, when that has nothing to do with it. The one thing I learned about speed limits, at least from riding my Bafang around, is that if you ride the speed limit, everybody thinks you're a moron. So I remember seeing speed limit 25 miles an hour. So when I finally got my whole setup and I calibrated my speedometer, I thought, I'm going to ride the speed limit. And I ride 25 miles an hour. People get pissed. They honk, they drive past you cursing out the window, and it's not like they're driving 1 or 2 miles an hour more than you. I tried catching up to one of those people. One of the people that I caught up to was going at 37 miles an hour, because I had to hit 40 to be able to pass them. And it's like... So one of the things that I'm really curious about is you have to do all this shit to get a driver's license. You have to take all these tests and answer all these questions to make sure that you know the rules. But at the end of the day, the people that actually have that don't obey the rules. Like me, what I'm figuring to myself is, all right, I have a vehicle that I pretty much put together myself. I'm fairly certain that it flouts it disobeys almost every single law there is regarding a motorcycle or an electric bicycle. So because it's this vehicle that I'm in is disobeying every single law regarding what is a legal vehicle, that I should drive as safely as humanly possible and obey as many of the laws as I can, because I don't want my shit to be taken. And what I've noticed is that when you actually obey those laws, the people who have legal vehicles get really pissed off that you're obeying the laws, and don't obey any of them. You know, I tried taking a motorcycle test, and the whole clutch thing and the brakes being on a pedal really confused the shit out of me. Like the first thing, the concept of a clutch, it just seems so, and dealing with gears like that, it just seems so antiquated. Like when I was riding that, I thought, man, I'm never going to get a normal motorcycle. Like this is what you have to deal with? That's the work. I mean, I know I sound so spoiled and like a jackass when I say this, but I'm just thinking to myself, this is the workaround that we had to come up with so that this antiquated 100-year-old bullshit-ass motor system can work and allow us to get around and get to where we need to go. It's just, it's so... I don't have a clutch. It's just like you turn the lever and you go. And when you want to change a gear, you just, take off and go. You just go off the throttle, change gear, and go. You don't have to worry about this clutch shit. I don't want to get used to having to deal with a clutch and all that other crap if I get... riding an electric bike that I electrified myself and then go into a gas motorcycle, I mean, obviously, it has a fancier suspension and more powerful brakes and all that, but the fundamentals of it, it's based on some old-ass shit that I don't want to deal with. And then the rumbling, and it's like you have to listen to it go 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 go. When you're sitting there, it's like, what the fuck? Get this out of there. A zero is nice. Like you get on a zero, it's just you just go. You go. I wouldn't even mind having gears. That thing doesn't have gears, which is kind of weird. I wouldn't mind having gears. I just the whole like having to deal with clutches and all that other shit. It's just you have to learn a skill to deal with a workaround so that this 100-year-old technology is able to work. It's just weird. But the other thing that's weird is you have to get used to the fact that your rear brake pedal is on the right. Like, so you have one brake pedal that's a lever and another brake that is a pedal. So, like, either make them both a pedal or both a lever. What I don't get is on a zero is you don't need the clutch anymore because a zero motorcycle doesn't use the stupid 120-year-old technology shit to go. So you don't need the clutch. It's just eliminated. But they still put the brake pedal as a pedal and one as a lever, and they don't give you an option to make one of them a pedal. I mean, both of them a lever, because I'd rather the rear brake and the front brake both be a lever rather than one is a lever and one is a pedal. One being a lever and one being a pedal is kind of weird. You know what's really funny? I'm probably going to wind up getting a motorcycle license, and after I do, I'm just going to build a bigger electric bike. Like that's the funny thing. I'm probably just going to I'm still going to wind up driving something that doesn't have a license plate. I'll just be able to say that I have a license because I don't want to get used to these other vehicles. I like what I have now. It's like I'm used to it. You know, I've been riding with it for years. I've been riding what I ride now for years in an environment where people drive like lunatics. So I'm used to, dealing with New York drivers and Ubers and all this that are constantly close to killing you. This is all something that I am used to with the system that I have. So getting used to a new system where the controls are all in different places and all that is just going to be weird. I kind of just want what I have now, except more legal and more faster. Yeah, more legal and more faster. You have electric motorcycles, but you still got there's this one dude that posted a modification where he got a zero motorcycle to have the rear brake pedal as a lever. I don't think it would take me a really long time to get used to having the brake pedal as a brake the brake lever as a brake pedal. That's just too weird. And the change should make sense, Clinton. That's the thing. The change should make sense. It's not really a change that makes sense. It's the change where everybody else always rode a device where the front brake is on the right hand grip and the rear brake is on the right foot pedal. So they just decided to copy that because you couldn't put it on the left side because you had a clutch. Cause gas. I think it should be there, Felix. I just think that the rear brake should also be on the other side accompanying it. I have an A1378, no image, no fan spin, but CPU heats up when the charger is connected. How dead is it? It sounds like PP-Bus G3 Hot is a short through the CPU. So one of your high-side MOSFETs is probably always on. So it's sending PP-Bus G3 Hot to the CPU all the time, which is why your CPU is hot. And that's also going to be bringing PP-Bus G3 Hot down, which is why nothing else is turning on. That's my guess. My second guess is that you're in an SO state, but you're missing one of the SO rails, so the CPU is semi-turning on. One of the above. Alright, this is not water damage, this is just the magic of Apple manufacturing. I'm used to having to clean up solder balls everywhere. Like, solder balls flying around Apple products is just just another day at the office. Okay, let's see, what do we have here? It says, rear brake is only used for trail braking and emergency stops. I use rear brake for everything. I mean, I try to use an even amount of rear brake and front brake, and since the front brake is way more powerful on my bike than the rear one because the rear brake has a smaller disc, I tend to realize that like I'm squeezing the rear brake a little bit more so that I can get even, but I like to use both. I like to use a little bit of both brakes. And since I don't have anti-lock braking on my bike, if I'm going over an area, like if I'm trying to stop really quickly, like I'm naturally doing anti-lock brakes, so I'm kind of like doing that. Like, if you see me trying to stop, it's like that, because I learned my lesson with the whole, with the concussion, with stopping short. So ever since, see, a concussion is a great way to learn what anti-lock braking is. Some people may learn it through taking a class. Some people may learn it through a manual. I learned it by getting a concussion when I stopped on an area that was ridiculously slippery, where they were using a plate that didn't have any traction marks. In New York, if you're putting plates in the street, you need to use the one with traction marks. They use one with no traction marks, so I just went pshh. But now, pretty much every time I stop, I make sure that like if I sense that the wheel is ever even close to freezing up, it's like. You think e-bikes should have a higher speed limit? Absolutely. Yeah, the 20-mile-an-hour thing is horseshit. So is the 25-mile-an-hour thing. It's fast enough that you're going to piss off people in a bike lane, but it's slow enough that you can't ride in the street and keep up with cars. So it's made as a solution that's supposed to pacify everyone, but it's just going to piss everybody off. On a bike, the brake is on the right, so you cannot brake and crank the engine at the same time. Who the fuck is braking and cranking the engine at the same time? I ripped that shit off my bike immediately, because there was this thing. Before I got rid of the stock controller, there was this thing that went from the brake to the controller so that when you hit the brake, it automatically turned off the motor, and it would keep it off for a second. So let's say I brake, but then I had to go again immediately, or I stopped because I thought somebody was going to jaywalk, and then they stop, and then I have to go. But it would be a 1-second delay. I turned that off because I realized that I'm never using the brake and the throttle at the same time. Get up to 15 miles an hour and just use the rear to stop and see how long it takes. The rear brake stopping is slower. I usually try to use each at the same time. I would love to try that on a real motorcycle. I just got to find someone that will trust me with their motorcycle so I can get some practice. Maybe it'll be Mr. Felix. The rear brake doesn't have as much stopping power, at least on my bike. Like you need to be using mostly front brake. But I don't want to use all front brake. I rode this Honda Rebel piece of shit. I think it was like a 1988 Honda Rebel. Let me see. Let me just make sure I got the right one. So I think it was like a 1988 Honda Rebel. This piece of shit. The guy I was riding with said, the neutral light, never trust it, always check for yourself. The neutral light is like my ex-girlfriend. It's not very reliable, not very bright, and it lies to me. It was. I'll never forget that shit. I'm probably gonna remember. I'm gonna remember that stuff until I'm like 90. But it was weird. I feel totally comfortable going through an obstacle course with my bike at 25 miles an hour. Hell, I'll go around shit at 30 miles an hour. I remember trying out this little obstacle course and they had set up. I'm on the motorcycle. I'm like 8 fucking miles an hour, and I'm like, help, help. Because I'm not used to this. Like, you have a fucking gear switcher on the leg. You have a brake up here, a brake down there. It's so confusing. It is confusing as hell. It's like, I was less comfortable riding this shit at like 8 or 9 miles an hour. just on a normal road than I was riding my electric bike at like 25 or 30. I've hit up to 48, 50 miles an hour on my bike, and I did not feel weird at all because I'm used to it. But this, it's like, I don't want to die. All right, so we cleaned this board up a little bit, so now we have to see if it's brain dead. And obviously, this is not going to be given back to the customer looking like cock and balls. This is going to go through the ultrasonic cleaner. Actually, I saw one little spot there that could use a little bit of touch-up. We might as well do before, yeah, audio area. So let's just remove this little junk by the audio area, and then we'll try. Yeah, that cap should go. That looks like shit. Yeah, I'm working on my flux conservation, and Ventec recently upped the prices on it. It was bound to happen, you know, when you print like 20% plus of your entire nation's money supply in a couple of months. You know, it might just start trickling down to cost of everyday goods. Yeah, and Ventec finally raised prices on flux, so I'm being cheap with it. We can't swim in it anymore. Alright. I also likely reflowed that little chip that has by it. That was that was under the nasty looking cap. That's an important thing to do just to make sure. Now we're gonna see if the thing has a brain. Want to make sure that I get a question mark logo on the screen. If we get a question mark logo, it means that we're one step closer to our job. Then this machine will have to get ultrasonically cleaned so that it's not nasty. Get rid of all the signs that there was liquid on it. Another thing that's good about doing the ultrasonic cleaning process, and one of the important reasons to do it, is if someone spills something again, you really want to be able to say, I gave this back to you perfectly clean. So if it comes back here with all these marks and liquid on it, then I'll know that there was something spilled again. And I just noticed something that I shouldn't have missed. Damn it. Better late than never. Yes, decoder. This happens several times a day. I'm spoiled now that I have Kevin to deal with this. Like every time someone says, but I didn't spill something on it again. Like, I used to be the one that dealt with all of those personally. And then it was Steve. And now it's Kevin. That job always gets passed off to whoever the new person is. The poor sucker new person. Somebody's got to do it. Some jobs just have unpleasant aspects to them, and one of the unpleasant aspects of this one is, but I didn't get liquid on it again. Your repair just didn't last. But dude, why does it smell like coffee? Why is there coffee dripping from the bottom of it? You put that there just now. No, I didn't. What the? Okay, well, he didn't say that, but I've had people say that shit to me before. People have balls. People have balls. Yeah, but every time I think I've got it, there's another little piece of shit somewhere. Good evening, Mr. Kopass. Does he handle them with grace? Yes. Kevin is amazing. Kevin is the man. Kevin has improved so much from when he started, it's ridiculous. Like, he started this job as a noob, and he's now better than I am at it. Like, considerably better. One of the things I like about our QA QC system is that for a lot of the jobs like this, it winds up going through two people. So I have my visual inspection guide that I go over with everybody here. And then they, in turn, look through the work and see if they can find anything that's missed, because this stuff is kind of hiding everywhere. It can be really easy to miss. So before I put this thing in a status to be quality assurance tested, ultrasonics and all that good stuff, let's give it one more good old look through. Now this person is kind of lucky. They're lucky in the fact that the CPU is not dead, because as I said, the CPU is usually dead in these situations. And it's not here, which means he's luckier than most. He's as lucky as the people that sold their ICLN stock at $23.90 yesterday. That is a blinking question mark folder of a working MacBook. So obviously this thing is going to need some TLC, it's going to need some ultrasonic cleaning. In addition to ultrasonic cleaning, it could also use a bit of a cleaning of the inside of the machine. Alright, so that's a fix. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. So the reason this wasn't turning on was extensive water damage around the part of the board that's going to control the CPU power. So it's going to take PP-Bus G3 Hot, it's going to take those slices of 12.56 volts, cut them up, and turn it into 1.5, 1.7 volts or so for the CPU. And if most of the time, when you have corrosion around here, it causes 12 volts to go straight to the CPU, kills the CPU. In this case, it didn't. Now, remember, one of the reasons that I did not want to plug it in and try it out is because every single time I'm plugging this in, when there's corrosion over there, I'm potentially sending 12 volts to the CPU. So that is one of my standard troubleshooting practices, but it's also one of my standard troubleshooting practices when I'm not going to send 12 volts to the CPU. You know, knowing how much amperage it's taking is there to tell me, give me an idea of where the problem is. But it also, I'm plugging in a board that has liquid damage. Now, if there is obvious liquid damage, I don't need to plug the board in to see how many amps it's taking to get an idea where I'm going to start. Because the whole point of plugging in the board and seeing how much power it's drawing is that's going to allow me to associate it in my head with, okay, the last time I was taking 150 milliamps, the problem was here. So look here, or something like that. That's the whole point. But when there's a giant blob of shit, then I already know my problem is here, so plugging it in really doesn't add anything to me, to the equation. So that's about it. We're going to ultrasonic this board, give it back to a happy customer, or well, otherwise probably a sad customer because he still thinks he didn't spill anything, and this is just the magic scam of Rossmann Repair where, we put like coffee packets or something inside the computer and we give it to them, and then I hit a button over here. I hit a button on my Dominion-owned keyboard, and then I press it, and then the coffee packets explode. And then, but anyway, what are you going to do? That's customer service for you. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.